I guess it add us to the screen, right?
Actually,
It's
truth be told, that was kind of cool how you did that. You took away the intro video, and then there was just the background. Then you kind of slowly faded each of us in. That's kind of neat.
oh, okay. Well,
That was a little different.
glad it worked out. So. That's exactly what I was trying to do.
It was actually kind of a cool little effect there. It was definitely different.
Yeah, well, the new background helps too. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
but, just don't have a banner for that one, unfortunately. But yeah,
Well, I mean, one thing at a time, But
yeah. Well, I mean, those things are expensive. So
yeah.
I think the one we did for out there was one almost 120. I think so. For
It turned
the
out
last
really well, though.
yeah the last one we did, yeah, it did it was good. So although they're not going to get so I paid less for that than I would for four shirts now. So,
See, that's so dumb.
so
So dumb.
I was like, man, somebody's got to have their math off or something. So, but
Someone
I'm
definitely
like,
has their
yeah.
math off.
So I was just like, whatever, dude. I'll just do it myself. I don't care.
Yeah.
So if I'm gonna pay you $400 for 6 shirts. I think it was $400 for 6 shirts. I said, hell, I might as well just buy the equipment for $700 and make my own
Right.
shit.
Hell yeah.
At least I get something out of it once they're done. So
Yeah. Right.
it's so pretty wild. Let's get this up here.
Well, welcome to the Metalheads Unite podcast, everybody. We are here on a Saturday morning here in the United States, and if you've watched the show before, you know that, of course, if you watch the show, if you follow us on any of our social media platforms at all, you know that we are supposed to be having a guest this morning, and so we don't have our guest yet. We may have to send an email to check in and see if the guest is still going to be joining us today. This
There's a lot
isn't
of there's a lot of confusion with time differences too with over there.
yeah Yeah, this isn't the first time we've had a little bit of issue with the time
Yeah.
difference, because whenever Jason sets up the studio for this whole thing, everything pops up in the Eastern time zone here in the United States, which is an hour ahead of where Jason and I are
Mhm.
located. We're located in the Central time zone, which when I do the Metalhead Minute and when I do all the advertising and stuff on TikTok and Instagram and X and all that, I try to make sure that I let everybody know that we are in Central Time. But the bad thing is the platform that we're using right now always advertises everything in Eastern Time. So everything is advertised an hour ahead of where we are, and then the band that we're about to bring on, they're in Germany right now, which I think they're how far ahead of us are they, Jason? Are they
I
seven
think
hours?
6 hours, 6 hours, or
Ahead of
7
us?
hours, something
Okay.
like that. Yeah,
So
I think it's like 5 in the afternoon over there. So
okay, so that would be
seven
7 hours.
hours.
Okay, that'd be 7 hours. So we had everything set up with the representative at the label, because he's the one that we were in contact with getting the interview set up and everything. So Jason sent him all of the information about the interview, earlier this week, and even put a connotation in the email that, hey, just to let you know the time on here, because he sent him the link for the whole studio that we're broadcasting from right now. Sent him the link and said everything. The time that you see is in Eastern Time. We're in Central Time, so please note the time difference. Go 1 hour back and then add 7 hours for the time difference to Germany.
Right.
So yeah, it does get a little confusing. We've had a couple of instances like this before, between here and Finland and stuff like that. So as far as we know, we're still we're still expecting Brainstorm to be
Yeah.
here in some form or fashion. We still don't know, still not 100% sure how many members we're going to get. We usually don't until the members actually show up, unless we're talking to a band directly. Because there are times when we'll communicate with one member of the band, and they'll be like, "Yeah,
Right.
it'll be just me, or it'll be just me and the bass player."
Mhm.
Because obviously we've had entire bands on before.
Oh yeah.
Definitely not something we can't accommodate. So, so at this point, we're not 100% sure how many members of the band we're going to get. And at this point, can't promise that the band knows that it's time to start. Obviously, let me, Jason. You want me real quick to send an email to?
Do
See,
what now?
you want me to send Curtis an email and see what we can find out?
Yeah, you can. It
Follow
doesn't
up.
mind.
All right,
I
I
can.
will follow.
I
I will
yeah.
follow up. But
Just say, just kind of tell them like, hey, there's some time difference confusion sometimes. Just want to let you know we're live, so
yeah, let
we can
me.
we'll be here until you show up. So
Oh yeah, oh yeah, 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 absolutely.
I want to say something. I found something kind of interesting when we both popped up on the screen. It's like we have T-shirts, of course, from different bands, but it's the same tour. I don't know if we've ever done that before.
The funny thing is, I still had my camera down. The funny thing is I was sitting here waiting for you to pop in, and when you popped in, I had the Accept shirt on too. I went, really?
Oh, did you really? Oh my god, that's
So I actually went back in our room, and I walked in. I said, all the band shirts we have between us, and we
come on with the same one.
we,
Uh,
we
well,
wanted the same
I was
one.
trying to keep with the theme. You know, it was like
Yeah,
oh yeah, German band. I'll just wear a German band T-shirt. You know,
that was exactly my thought process. I did the
yeah.
exact same thing. But yeah, so that's pretty funny.
Well, I should have just wore my Queensrÿche shirt then. Just as good, right? Oh man. So, yeah. So Chris is going to reach out to those guys. So I don't kind of know what what to expect from that. So we'll kind of see, and we'll if we have to, we'll just wing a show out for here for a little bit, and until they either show up or if we have to reschedule that, that's fine. If it works out that way, um, it's not something we've ever done before, but I mean, it's, first time for everything, I guess. So
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, the good thing is that there was enough stuff that happened during the week where we can touch on some things.
oh yeah,
We can read some stories and all that good stuff. The bad thing is we don't have hit in the road, and we don't have a theme of the week this week like we normally do.
well,
Um,
it could be a surprise theme of the week if we have to go that route, I guess. Hopefully, he's been pretty responsive, so hopefully
yeah,
that'll.
yeah. Curtis he's been good to work with. Of course, the
Yeah,
funny thing is so was Angelo. He was too. So
yeah. Man, so I'm kind of wondering if Angelo's even there anymore since we're getting everything from Curtis now. So
I'm not sure because we're
well,
also we're
well,
also
maybe because we're
getting
also getting stuff from a Kareem too,
from
from the
Corinne.
same.
Yeah,
Yeah, so from the same label. So yeah, it's probably just different. Whoever's in, I guess.
that's true.
And then,
Of course, the funny thing is considering we're getting, of course, we've mentioned Angelo before, but now we're, Angelo and Curtis and Corinne. We have three people at that label who are sending us stuff, and
right.
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
I,
really a
I,
lot. It's a lot to sift through.
I just, you know, I was on here and looking through some stuff, and I think it's so cool that, uh, you know, take for instance the Lordy album. I mean, it's not due out till March 21st. They sent
Hmm.
us the MP3
Yep.
download for it, and I'm just like, dude, I can hear this a month ahead. This is just unreal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you? Did
never,
you?
never in a million years would I think when we started this thing we would be like listening to music that's not even released yet.
Hmm.
That's pretty freaking amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like, and of course, being in different fields of secrecy, I can say, I guess. I mean, I can keep that under under wraps because Ain't nothing worse than being in a movie and having to sit on it for 6 months before you can tell anybody you were in it. So
Right. Well, Kurt, yeah,
it's like I
Curtis,
want to tell somebody.
yeah, Curtis just responded. He
Okay.
Yeah, so he said they confirmed. I'll try to reach them. I'm super sorry. I says no, it's no.
Oh no, it's good.
Yeah,
It's
no, no,
like I
it's
said,
no problem.
it's probably a little bit of a. If he sent them to the studio, they seen 11 probably. You know, that's my thinking. I mean, that's so I think when we go forward advertising, we'll do a Central and Eastern slash time maybe.
We can well, we can come up
Like
with
10,
something like that.
yeah, like 11 Eastern, 10 Central, and that way we kind of cover our immediate area bases anyway. I don't know how
Right.
many people out in California listen to us, but I know a lot of people in we got some north and
Yeah, we
east,
do.
and then we got some which would be the Eastern time zone. So
Right.
we would some Florida fans. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty neat to see where most of that stuff's coming from. So,
Yeah.
but
Speaking of, and I was just about to bring this up because you were talking about the new Lordy. Did you see who you see who else they sent us music for early?
dude, have you seen our email? You gonna ask me something like that? Probably not. uh, okay, well, she
Now it's
wasn't
not.
there.
Now don't get me wrong. It's not brand new music, but at the same time, it's still not supposed to be out until March 4th.
Oh, hmm, I'm looking.
Well, I mean, I'll save you the time. It's Meshuggah. So
Oh, April 4th. Yeah, yeah,
what I say? Oh, I said March 4th, didn't I? Yeah,
yeah. You
April
said that's
4th.
what threw me off. You said March 4th. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
what?
sorry. I was looking at something else. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So, oh, so it's like a
It's basically a special edition, but it's got new stuff on it.
gotcha, gotcha.
But yes, but still, hey, it's
Still new music.
still
So I
it's
mean,
still almost 2 months ahead of the release, and we have it in our
right,
email. So
right. There was another one too. I remember like the pentagram. I remember when it sent us
yeah,
that.
yeah.
There was a like a. That's one of the things like when you showed me that you were just like, oh, did you see they sent us the whole album? I'm like, what? I'm like, I didn't
Hmm.
see that. So
Well,
I
Curtis.
realized you had to click another link inside the email. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. Well,
So once I figured that out, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
okay. So then I go back and I see all the bands were doing that. So I'm just like, oh
Oh
shit!
yeah,
Like I've been missing out on a lot of whole albums, I guess. So
yeah. Well, Curtis also sent us the Dirk Schneider Balls to the Wall Reloaded. We
I
have that
seen
too.
that. Yeah,
We've
yeah.
got that too.
That's going to be actually. I put that song with him and Doro on the playlist this week.
Yeah,
So
and the Balls to the Wall that he did with Joachim Broden from Sabaton was really good.
oh yeah,
Oh, it was
forgot about
really
that
good.
too. Yeah. So I guess uh, I guess we can start out with the obvious. Is they announced that Ozzy's last show, of course, it's Black Sabbath and Ozzy's last
Yeah,
show is coming up. Sharon said that Ozzy still sounds good. He can't
just
walk.
can't walk
So
anymore.
I mean,
Yep.
it's and I think we talked about this with Ricky Rackman when he was at the Rockin' Pod. He's like, man, I don't want to remember Ozzy like that. And I get that because I mean that's somebody that grew up pretty much in the business, so he's met all these people,
Yeah.
and he wants to remember Ozzy in his prime, and which is understandable. I would probably want to do the same, but then again, you got people like my wife that's never seen Ozzy, so you would be like, oh man, I would love to take her to
Hmm.
at least see him. But she's probably just never going to
Yeah.
get that experience, I guess, since it's only in England. So unfortunately, so
Right. Well, and it only makes sense. I mean, finishing your career where it started. I mean,
right,
getting
yeah,
a
I mean,
chance to come full circle and all that good stuff. So,
and
but
coming,
but yeah, it is kind of a
and I know like it's not to put anything because I mean I'm not anything, I'm not anybody famous or anything, but when I was got into wrestling, I started in a town in a building, and then I had a chance to end it in the same town in the same building. So you know, I think that gives you a little
Hmm.
bit better closure on, hey, this is,
Right.
I'm done with this. I got to put this behind me. I got to face reality. It's, you know, either your body or your voice or whatever the case may be just can't keep up with. I think the thing is like as an entertainer, you want to make sure you are putting out quality entertainment for the people because they're the ones buying the tickets. I think once you realize that you don't feel like you can do that, then that's probably time to be like, you know what, maybe I need to take a step back. So,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Well, and one of the things that I saw, and I know a lot of people don't like Sharon Osbourne for one reason or another. But at the same time, one of the stories that I was reading not long after they announced the show and everything, which we will get into, we'll get into the actual lineup for this last
right,
show here in just a little bit because it is absolutely insane who all's going to be playing at this.
oh,
But Ozzy said that, or Sharon said that that's what Ozzy wants because he was planning on going on one more tour, and they were going to be going with he was going to be going around with Judas Priest, and
right,
it was gonna be Ozzy's actual for real this time last tour and everything, but he had the fall where he
mm,
dislodged everything from the
totally,
ATV accident back in the 80s and all that good shit. So, he had to go through that, and then he was diagnosed with the Parkinson's and everything. So he didn't get a chance to say his goodbye, or as Sharon put it, Ozzy didn't get his full stop, because
right,
that's exactly how she put it. And this is going to be his chance to just put a stamp on it.
yeah.
I don't think there's a more perfect place to do it than
I don't think so. I mean,
over there in Birmingham. I mean, it sucks for us because I mean, there's no way we're going to
right.
be able to afford to take the time off, airfare and all that shit. So I mean, I hope what I hope is they figure out some way to either live stream it or
Well, I mean, I'm sure you'll
or
be able to watch
they
after the fact. I mean,
yeah, or you
there's
can,
some people over YouTube.
or right, or they record it so we can watch it. Because I mean, you and I obviously, of course, are both old enough to have been around for Ozzy's almost in his entire career, his solo career for sure. Obviously, you and I weren't born when Black Sabbath started, but
Right.
you and I have been around for Ozzy's entire solo career. So especially the part of Ozzy's career where he really made a name for himself as far as Ozzy Osbourne, apart from Black Sabbath. So, I mean, our formative years, musically were the basically you could argue the peak of his solo career.
Right.
So, to be able to be a part of it coming to an end would be amazing. It's just, us being over here is just not going to happen. So hopefully, like you say, we can at least experience it at
Right.
some point.
Hey, I want to thank Hank Hill for watching us over there on YouTube. So he remembers the Ozfest in like '97 or '98 because Sabbath said it was their last and final show. Here
Yeah.
we are 30 years later. I'm glad he's been able to tour all these years. Yeah, we are too. Like, I mean, I
Hmm.
saw him in '96, I think is what my tour shirt says down there. I think that's the last time I seen Ozzy. So I mean, it's still been a long time for me. So
Yeah,
so
it's been a
so if he
minute
would
for
have
me too.
so if he would have made that round with Ozzy and Judas, I would have definitely first off because I've never seen Judas Priest, believe it or not,
Hmm.
but that's yeah, that would have been on tour. I would have definitely even if it would have been the only concert
Yeah.
I've seen that year, I would have definitely went to see that,
Yeah.
basically, for my wife to see Ozzy because I mean, she's,
Yeah.
so never got to do that. And I think everybody should. I think everybody like we've talked about this before. When I missed Pantera, and I thought, I'll see him again. I think we need to stop with that mindset because we don't know
Hmm.
what's going to happen with these bands, and then well, we'll see them next time. Well, there may not be a next time.
There might not. I mean, you never know.
So yeah, especially with, I mean, look, we're wearing t-shirts of bands in their 70s. So I mean, it's not they're
Yeah.
not will they tour again? Probably. I mean, except just had a new album out, but you know it's just how much wear and tear can you take in your 70s with traveling and all that? It's
Right.
like especially different countries and
Yeah.
you know across the seas and all that stuff is jet lag and all that. Well, I'm sure they're
Mhm.
probably used to it though, but you know,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But yeah, so
you just never know what's going to happen. So
yeah, so it was definitely. I mean, KK's Priest and Accept. Of course,
mm,
you made the comment earlier that we both got these shirts from the same show,
mm,
same venue, same night, everything. So, but so I felt really lucky to actually go to this show when we went,
yeah,
because, like you say, Mark just celebrated his 70th birthday earlier this year. KK
mm,
is 74. Wolf is in his 60s. So I mean, you got guys that have been doing this a long time, 40, 50
yeah,
years probably at this point, depending on who exactly you're talking about. So the fact that they were able to finally make it over here, and the funny thing is um, I think we talked about this at least once on the show. Mark said that touring over here in the United States is really, really difficult. All the logistics and money aside, but Mark also made the comment that the United States isn't really a hotbed for heavy metal anymore. And I know we talked about that before, because it was kind of, people were kind of freaking out about
mm,
it. It was like, oh, he's talking shit about America. Well, that's not true. He's not talking shit about America. All he was saying is this isn't like the 80s anymore. Heavy metal
right.
doesn't rule the world in this country anymore. And it doesn't. It just doesn't. So for a band from another country to logistically and financially, you know, for it to make sense for them to come over here, not every band can do that. Not every band has the longevity of Accept and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and stuff like that. Not everybody has that financial stability to be able to do that.
Hmm.
Because like an Iron Maiden, if they don't necessarily make money on, let's just say, the concerts themselves, they've always got merchandising to fall back on. They've always got album
Right.
sales to fall back on. So a band like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, they don't necessarily they don't necessarily have to go into a tour going, okay, we have to make X amount of money for it to make sense. Now, obviously, every band that goes on tour, they'd like to come out at least breaking even, because most of the bands, anyway, I don't want to speak for all of them, most of the bands that have been on the show, they've talked about, even if we're going to go out on 6, 8, or 10 dates, a lot of the money that we're going to spend is coming out of our pocket. So if we can at least come home breaking even, then we consider that a win. So, obviously the bigger bands, like, Metallica, of course. Metallica is kind of an outlier, but,
Well, yeah.
like Accept and KK's Priest and stuff like that, those bands, if they probably they got a bigger budget, of course, than some of the bands that we've interviewed, but even they are probably like, we would like to at least make a little money, but coming home breaking even would be good too. But even then, KK's Priest sells shirts, Accept sells shirts. They sell a lot
Hmm.
of merchandising and stuff like that. And so, there is a lot that goes into it. But good morning, Amy. Sorry, I saw your message come through and I was flapping my gums. So, but Curtis, let's see, about 10 minutes
Yeah.
ago, Curtis replied, said if we don't hear back in 15, we'll need to reschedule, which is fine. We totally understand. We get it. It's totally fine if we have to reschedule. That's cool. I'm pretty sure our calendar's open right now, so I mean we'll find a way to make it work. But so, but speaking of, going back to talking about Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne's last show, let me see if I can find the announcement about it, because there it is. All right, because the the lineup that they have for this is just bonkers.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. All right, if you haven't heard, of course, it's called Back to the Beginning, the final show. It's Saturday, July 5th in Villa Park in Birmingham, England. Before, before I go any further, I had to laugh because if she finds out that I told this story, she's probably gonna be pissed at me. But Kayla sent me a text. You probably know where this is going already. You can probably figure it out. But Kayla sent me a screenshot of the poster, right?
Hmm.
And it says July 5th in Birmingham. She goes, She goes,
Alabama.
Ozzy's last show is July 5th in Birmingham. I said, yeah, I know, right? She goes, it's drivable. I was like, that's Birmingham, England. I
Yeah, not
said,
not drivable.
I said, if only it was in Alabama.
Right.
'Cause, I mean,
Yeah.
Birmingham, you can be to Birmingham from here in 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
uh,
We would be so lucky.
oh God, it would just, I mean, I would already have tickets.
Yeah.
Uh, I would already have tickets if it was in Birmingham, Alabama. Amy, to answer your question, Ozzy is 76 at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know if you've seen. I've seen someone. I think it was on. I think it may have been on our page, or I may have just been scrolling through and seen this. But I was watching a recent Scorpions live show, and Klaus Main still sounds pretty damn good to
He
be.
does.
He's 76 or 4, something like
70, I think
that.
he might be 73, 74, somewhere around there.
He's somewhere in there, yeah. But I'm just like, wow, this dude still sounds amazing. It's like it's crazy. To think that these guys are that old. So sometimes I just catch myself and say, man, there's no way these guys are that old. And then I think about, oh,
Yeah.
well, wait a minute, I'm getting old. So they probably are. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Klaus is 76 also.
I thought he was. I thought that's what it said, 76. I was like,
Yeah.
damn,
Well, see,
that's crazy.
here's the funny thing about that. Ozzy and Klaus Meine
Hmm.
and Rob Halford and Mark Tornillo, these guys are all 70 plus.
Hmm.
But and even Udo Dirkschneider, same thing. How is it that all these what's the vocal style that all these guys have in common? They've all sang clean their whole careers. And we've talked about this on the show before. You got a lot of these death metal bands, and you got a lot of these deathcore bands. I mean, I know we've talked about Will Ramos from Lorna Shore, and we've talked about Alex
Hmm.
Terrible from Slaughter to Prevail on the show
Hmm.
before. The stuff that those two, especially Will and Alex, the stuff that these guys can do with their voices right now, I mean, it's pretty amazing what they can do. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't listen to those two bands a whole lot. I've heard a little bit of Slaughter to Prevail, and Kayla's had me listen to a little bit of Lorna Shore here and there. That their stuff, by and large, isn't really for me. It's not my taste. But I can at least acknowledge the talent that it takes for those two to be able to do what they do. But are they going to be able to do that shit when they get to be Klaus Meine and Ozzy Osbourne's age? Hell no, they're
Probably
not going
not.
to.
There's no.
No,
Yeah.
no
There's no
way in
way.
hell. So the fact that those five guys that I mentioned have been able to do what they've been able to do for most of them for 5 decades at this point. You're talking probably every single one of those guys started out when they were either in their late teens, their early 20s. They're all in their 70s now. So you're talking a career of 40 to 50 years, pretty much all the way across the board. Hell, the Scorpions are celebrating their 60th anniversary, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
60 years. That is nuts. But they all have in common the fact that they've taken care of their voices all these years. Of course, Ozzy was. We all know how rough Ozzy was on his body early in his career. So,
Hmm.
he's even said that he said it in his book. He's like, I'm amazed that I'm even still alive. So, but all that aside, what he did to his body, what he's been able to do with his voice. I mean, he hasn't been rough on his voice. Neither has Rob. Neither has Mark. Neither has Klaus. I mean, whether you're any of them are classically trained or not, I have no idea where these guys even found their talent and developed their singing style. I have no idea. All I know is that singing style is a lot more conducive to longevity than some of this other stuff that we hear. So I mean,
Yeah.
I hope some of these other bands, even though, like I say, I don't listen to Lorna Shore really, and Slaughter. I've listened to more Slaughter to Prevail than Lorna Shore for sure. But
Yeah.
so I hope somehow those other two bands have a decades long career, because that would be good for the overall metal scene if they do. Do I see it happening? I don't know if I see it happening with them doing what they're doing with their throats. I really don't. I don't know how they could physically do it for 30 years or more.
Oh,
Cuz
sorry. I was
hell,
talking
oh no, you're
talking to
fine.
Kurt. I'm talking to Curtis. So.
Yeah, that's fine. But I here's another band, like, and I know that Avenged Sevenfold is kind of a polarizing band for some people in the metal community, but if you take Sounding the Seventh Trumpet and Waking the Fallen. If you take those two albums and compare them to the way M Shadows sang on those two albums compared to when City of Evil came out, he completely went with the very rare exception. He changed his vocal style coming off of those first two albums, going into City of Evil. He went clean, and of course that's when they made it. Now whether or not you want to debate the legitimacy of them making it because he went clean, that's a different debate for another time. But that's the change in M Shadow's vocal style from the more aggressive guttural style that he sang on the first two to the clean vocal style. I would be willing to bet, without knowing for sure, not having talked to him, I would be willing to bet that at some point in the back of his head, maybe that was a little bit. If I want to do this for a long time, I may
Right.
want to. I may want to consider doing something different.
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah,
I
he
don't.
blew his
I don't know.
vocals out. He blew his vocals out. So I'm sure that was in the
Yeah,
back of his mind. So
yeah. So I mean, it
yeah,
had
and
to
I
have been
mean,
at some point.
and then Matt Heafy credits him for saving his voice because he was
Yeah.
doing kind of the same thing in the beginning, and then
Right.
him Knight was like, "Hey man, you may want to back off of that stuff, dude."
Yeah.
It's like, so
Well, the good
so
thing the good thing is like with Matt is Matt changed his vocal style. He kind of flip flopped it. He did a little bit of a 180 to where he went to a more predominantly clean vocal style too. But the good thing is Matt can still throw that in when he needs to
right, yeah,
because of the decision to okay, all right, I'm going to pull this back.
to back off
I'm
now.
going to pull this back and I'm going to switch it up a little bit. That way I can still add the. I don't really know if you want to call what Matt Heafy does gutturals, but
Yeah, probably not. But
not really. But I don't know even what you would call it. Probably just screams. He does. Matt can still pepper in the screams that he used to do. He can pepper those in because he decided to make the change.
mhm.
So to me, as far as Trivium goes, it became a good recipe, and Matt is still able to throw in those shades of the first two or three albums, but at the same time, like we talked about, prolonging his career. Trivium is going to be around for a long. I don't see Trivium not being around unless they just have something catastrophic happen within the band, or they just up and decide, all right, you know what, they do what Godsmack did. It's like, all right, we're done. We've put out enough new music, and maybe we'll just tour on what we've put out. But with his with as conscientious as Matt Heafy is, I don't see that happening. I don't see. I don't see. I really don't see Trivium stopping anytime soon. At least let's hope. I'm keeping my fingers crossed it doesn't happen because it seems like every album that Trivium comes out with, they just keep getting better and better. So
Yeah. No. So Curtis said he wasn't sure what happened. He said he said there was probably a mix-up somewhere, and he's trying to reschedule it now. So
okay,
we apologize. That's the first time that's ever happened. So
yeah,
not sure. Not sure. I think you know once we get another schedule here, I think I'll touch base with them the day before to make sure everything's good.
yeah,
So we're not on here live and wasting everybody's. If anybody's listening expecting to hear the interview, then that's kind of kind of makes us feel a little bit bad. So I mean, we
yeah,
were excited about it too. I mean, you know, hey,
right.
and nothing else that gives us an extra week to listen to the rest of the music because I mean
That's true.
this band has 14 albums out,
Yeah,
so it's like
they,
it was Chris started at one end, I started at the other, and I said, well, we'll have questions from each end if one of
yep,
us is covered, that way we both don't have to you know try to squeeze all that in because it's a lot. I mean, I spent. Let's see. One of the days I spent like 3 hours, just listening to their records.
yeah,
I'm just like Jesus,
yeah.
and then it's like it's one of those days where you're just like, oh great, I got three in, and it's like, there's only 8 more to go. I was like, holy shit,
Right,
because this was in the kind of in the middle. I had already listened to the first three, so
right.
I was listening, and I kind of like I felt like I was like, oh okay, I got to be at least halfway now, right? No, man. I'm like Jesus, dude.
well,
And
again, I mean,
of course, on top of that, we have the new album too that they
yes,
sent
we
us.
do.
So,
Yeah,
it's kind of like we even have an extra album than what's out there. So it's
right.
so it's
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah,
Some, yeah, a lot of material,
because
dude. Like they've been around a while, and they've
yeah.
definitely survived a lot. And that's kind of
Hmm.
one of the things that we're anxious to talk to them about is how do they explain their longevity with not being as big as, like you said, Accept and Scorpions and stuff. I mean, a German band, you're going to be compared to those, I'm sure.
Right.
So it's kind of like, how do you guys, of course, we know Germany is a big metal,
Oh, that's God. Yeah, they are.
big metal community over there.
Yeah.
They don't have to have a new wave of German heavy metal. I think they've got it covered over there.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
but
When it comes to, I mean, when it comes to thrash and power metal, Germany is I would say easily top three, if
mhm.
not top two, as far as countries that have those subgenres, taken taken care of. So, but because this band, I don't want to dive into it too much because obviously we're not going to be having the
Yeah,
interview. But I want
because we want to talk to them.
right.
So
But at the same time, this is a band that's been around for what is it, 36 years at this point.
yeah, 36 years. Yeah.
So I mean, they've seen a lot. There's going to be a lot to talk about,
Mhm.
a lot of material to cover. So
I kind of watched them grow old in the pictures of the album. So
exactly, yeah.
I don't know what he plays, guitar or bass or what he plays, but he got white headed quick. So it's,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah,
like
he did. Yeah,
so.
yeah, he did. But
That's-
well, another thing I want to touch on another thing that I just saw come across the ticker. And it's coming across right now. The whole Exodus thing.
oh yeah, yeah. So
So that one kind of came out of nowhere. If you guys haven't heard by now, I think we talked about it when the week that it first happened. But uh, Exodus has gone back to Rob Dukes.
mhm,
Steve Zetro Suzo is no longer with the band now. The reason why we're bringing this back up is because a couple days ago, Steve finally made his first comments since
mhm,
leaving the band, and come to find out, he didn't leave. Apparently they let him go.
mhm.
So yeah, kind of like a little bit of an interesting turn of events there. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know how much of that story you read, but I was reading
I
back
read a lot of it.
when they let him go the first time was kind of like, oh, I could see why you guys let him go then because he was
Right.
a little bit of a diva, I guess, back then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was asking, why are they in the front and I'm not in the front? I'm the front man, and it's kind
Right.
of kind of like that shit. And it's like, well, but you didn't make the band though, guy. And it's
Hmm.
like you know you got members of the band that's been there since it's
That's the beginning. Yeah.
since the beginning. So it's like those guys should be in the front. That's
Yeah.
the way it is. So yeah, just little stuff like that. Kind of like I'm like, oh yeah, I would have probably had enough of that bullshit. Too. I think Gary Hope was the one posting. So yeah, we just had
It
enough of that
was.
bullshit, man. And Gary's like, fuck that guy.
Well,
So and then when they brought him back in, he said, I thought maybe things would be better. And he never said anything happened this time. He just said I thought things would be better. And I'm just like, okay, well something had to happen. I mean, for you guys
right. Because he's been back with the band this go around for what was it, 10, 11 years?
about 10, 11
It
years,
was a
something like
pretty
that.
pretty
So
decent stint this go around. But
yeah, so oh, no
so I still think it sucks that he's gone. No disrespect to Rob Dukes, but it's Exodus is just different
yeah,
with
was unique.
him,
Yeah. Well,
and
because his voice is unique. It's like, I
it
think that's the
is.
thing.
Yeah.
When
So
you got to it's like one of those things when you hear a song, you ain't even got to tell. You be like, oh, that's Steve, that's Susan, and
mhm.
you can tell. Just like when we hear something, we're like, that's Ripper, that's Ripper Owens,
Oh yeah.
or at some point you were just like, okay, is that Rob or Ripper? Because you didn't know if it
Hmm.
was Rob Halford or Ripper Owens at some
Yeah.
points, but
Speaking of Tim Owens, I mean, he's another guy that the way he sings, I mean, he's
yeah,
he's been doing that for decades too. And
it's amazing too. It's like, how in the hell? I mean, of
to,
course, he's younger than most of the other guys. I mean,
right, I mean,
he's
I-
pushing 60, I think.
he's
So
yeah, he's in his
58.
50s, but he's in his 50s somewhere. But I mean, but still, the some of the songs that he sang the night that we were there, and that
Yeah.
he can still hit and hold, because that's another part of it.
Right.
Not, I mean, hitting a note is one thing, but he can still hit it and hold it, so he can still
Yeah.
do both. So
Crazy.
he's another guy that even all these decades later can still sing. You know, his voice hasn't dropped off at all, from what I can tell. But
Yeah.
but Steve's voice is definitely distinct.
It's
So
just that, it's like I would say iconic, because I mean it's kind of like I said, if it's iconic, it's one of those things where you hear it and you're like, you know,
immediately,
especially, we're just talking about Ozzy. Ozzy's one of those guys. You hear Ozzy sing, you're like, that's Ozzy Osbourne.
yeah, it's
You
like
need
there's
to,
no two ways
even
about it.
even if you like, even back in the day when you turned, because we didn't have all the stuff we have now telling us when stuff's coming out. You had to hear it on the radio. Oh, the new song by Ozzy's coming on. But
Right,
if you cut the radio on in the middle of it, and you're like, huh, Ozzy got new music. Because
right, yeah, yeah,
you're just like, oh, that's Ozzy.
yeah.
I
You
heard
wouldn't,
this one
yeah,
before. Is this new?
yeah.
It's like, yeah.
You wouldn't even have to guess. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think as much as Dave Mustaine doesn't like, didn't like being the singer of Megadeth, I think that made Megadeth, the powerhouse that they are, because of
hmm,
his unique vocal style. You know, like I said, all those bands, we can. You can sit out here and name, probably 20 or 30 '80s metal bands that probably sounded, you probably couldn't pick them out of the lineup. You know what I mean? It's just like
right,
you could hear a song from each of the bands and be like, okay, well, I don't know who that is, but
right.
it's good. You know,
Well,
no,
and
it's
you've
nothing,
had,
nothing. Not saying anything bad about that. I'm just saying it's just not nothing that's iconic
right.
and different. So,
Well, you've actually mentioned that more than once on this show, talking about
mhm.
how how deep of a pool there used to be back then, because there were
Yeah,
bands all over the place, because you've mentioned Trickster a few times on
yeah,
the show about them coming into the industry at the wrong time,
yeah. They were late
but
to the party, man. And
they
it's
were,
sad to say. So,
yeah, but I mean, the amount of bands that there were, probably anywhere from like 82 to 88.
mhm.
I mean, because I mean, like you just said, you could probably pull up, like you say, you could probably pull up a song, and it could have been the Bullet Boys, it could have been Y&T, it could have been Kicks, it could have been
Yeah,
Faster Pussycat, it could have been all sorts of
L-
different
LA
LA Guns.
Guns.
It could have been you probably could have been like, back then, like, and we joke about it now, but back then a song could have been any of six or eight bands. It could have been a Havoc and Hatchet type situation way back
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Are you sure this isn't Slaughter? Are you sure this isn't Tesla? Are you sure this isn't,
Yeah.
So I mean, there was just
Well, so
the market was just flooded back then.
I'll say this though, when you brought up that, it's like Mark Slaughter was probably one of the few, of course Sebastian Bach, and those
Sure.
guys were kind of a few out of the handful that you knew. It's like, okay, that's definitely, you know, this band or that band. But Mark Slaughter could have definitely been in, like, if you threw him in with like Steelheart or something like that, and played them back to back, you'd be like, okay, I can see there's probably
Hmm.
not much difference there. Uh,
Yeah, you could at least
and,
see
and,
where
and
you could at least see where it would take you a second to figure it out. Yeah.
Right. And I think we talked about this before. I think that's what killed that era of music, is because you had too much. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
You had too much doing the same thing. I
Yeah.
think if somebody would have came in, and that's what happened. Nirvana came in, it was different, and everybody was like, oh, they were flocking to it because all the '80s shit sounded the same.
Hmm.
And I think they were looking. People were ready for something different.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, for a lot of those bands that were coming in, at the end there, that it didn't, they didn't succeed as much. So, you know,
You know what? On the bright side of us not having this interview today, this might that right there, what you just mentioned, might be something that we asked them about, because
oh, for sure,
they
yeah,
formed this band in 1989.
yeah,
Now granted, it was over in Germany, so they
hmm
probably weren't affected
no,
like the bands were over here, but that's actually something that we should bring up with them, because they formed in 89, right at the
right.
very tail end of that whole thing.
hmm
So actually,
Well, I mean, that could have been why there was so much, time difference in between their first release
could
too.
be,
So I mean,
could be.
just trying to okay, we got to figure this out, because if we're going to do it, we got to make sure we're going to
Yeah,
be able to go forward with it.
trying
It's
to
kind
trying to make sure they can find the right amount of traction. I'm
I mean,
gonna make a note of
whatever,
that.
whatever they did obviously worked because here we
Yeah,
are, 36 years later talking about them. So I mean,
exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
this, Brainstorm is one of those onslaught bands where I only heard about them back when they had the last album in like 21, I think it was. Was that the last album, 21? I think. I got to go back and look, but I think that's what it was. I think,
20. Damn it! I had it pulled up. Hang on.
yeah, 2021 Wall of Skulls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wall of
so
Skulls.
so
Yeah.
I remember like listen because this is when we started the show, so
Hmm.
we were already listening to music and stuff. And I remember when that came out. Actually, I'm gonna look and see what because it'll tell the date on here too. It was September of 2021. So
Hmm.
we had already started this thing by then. So
Yeah.
you because we started January 2nd, I think, of 2021. So
Yeah, we did.
this was a first year thing, and I remember that album coming out, and I was like, man, this is a badass band. I started liking songs and stuff, and then of course when
Yeah.
this one came out, and I told him, I said, oh, I can't wait for this because I loved
Yeah.
the last album,
Hmm.
and he was just like, oh, you want to interview him? Well, fuck yeah,
Yeah, that was
like,
yeah. So Curtis sending us the new album was the impetus for this whole interview anyway. Because
exactly, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, we owe him.
Man, I can't
We do
that
owe
that
him a
that
thank you.
yeah, that album is
And I
from
tell
what
you,
I've heard so far. I haven't listened to the whole thing, but I've heard at least 3 or 4 songs off of it.
yeah,
It's pretty badass.
it
So.
really is. And I know that we usually we do this with pretty much every band, but I don't know if you have paid attention to the artwork. Holy
Oh
balls!
yeah, oh yeah.
My
That's definitely
God.
something we're going to bring up. So,
And like I say,
uh,
we reference it with pretty much every one of our guests. But
mhm.
with a band like this, with a resume like this, I mean, we'll definitely have some things to talk about as far as the artwork goes because
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I'm not sure we've
not,
had a band with this much of a resume on
we
the
haven't
show before. So I think
we haven't.
Contortion may have been uh, the biggest catalog we've interviewed so far.
Yeah,
So.
no, we
Um,
we have we have not we have not interviewed a band with
well, like a formal interview, I would say. So,
yeah.
like I said, we interviewed some bands at Rockin' Pod that but they was 15, 20 minute interviews. So,
Right. I mean,
it wasn't like a formal sit down for an hour and a half or 2 hours
yeah,
talking about everything. So, I do hope we get them on before the album release. I would like to be able to try to help push some sales on that for
hmm
them. So over here, because I know, a lot of bands over there didn't get the respect over here they should. I don't think so.
that's why we're doing this because I
Well,
mean,
exactly. Yeah.
every because people need to and I'm sure a lot of us hardcore metalheads know that there's good bands outside of the United
Well,
States,
yeah.
but I think a lot of people who are a little bit more casual is in their fandom. I don't think they really know what they're missing. And I think part of it is, and you've brought this up many times on the show, is that there's really nobody over here, based over here. There's not many people over here focused on countries that are outside of here. I mean,
Right.
you know, and it's really unfortunate because
Hmm.
there are bands that, and I'm gonna bring this one up. Angelus Apatrida should be huge,
Hmm. Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
and they're
Well,
doing well. They're doing well in here.
wish they may be now since they got on
Right.
the right label. I think so.
They have a new home. So,
Um,
well, the funny
and
thing is
I want to ask you. I was going to ask you. I'm glad we brought that up because I was going to talk to you about that. So how awesome would it be for them to get on tour with some of those bands, Testament and,
oh man,
and
don't,
Exodus?
don't think I didn't think of that.
I seen that and I said, oh my god, if they get on one of those tours, Jesus, like they ought to do another kind of Bay Area thrash kind of thing and include like a coast to coast thrash or something, maybe a tour
Yeah,
where they
something.
bring in like Angel Sapatrida and some other bands like that where
Yeah.
different
Oh man.
countries and yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
next week's gonna be fun because we have another release from one of the friends of the show's Hidden Intent next week. So
Oh
I'm
man.
can't wait for
I
that, dude.
am.
They
I am
said it was
so
the
excited.
heaviest thing they've done so far, and I'm like, oh come on, man,
I know, right? I was like,
there ain't no way.
well, I do know that. I know you saw it. I told Chris that, hey, sounds like it's time to come back on the
Oh yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah.
So we're definitely gonna. we'll definitely set that up. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing the new single because I have a feeling it's gonna be it's gonna be fantastic. I really
Yeah.
think it's gonna be good. I'm super duper looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the new album. 2025 is gonna be a banger before it's all said and done. I mean, my God.
Oh yeah, we still getting. I'm still getting stuff where you know, Megadeth. Dave. I think that was rolling across a minute ago. Dave
90
Mustaine said,
days in.
yeah, 90 days in. So I mean, last time it didn't take them very long
Not really.
to once we started hearing and Dave started sharing where he had he was sharing riffs and stuff like that. And I think 6 months after that we had an album. So I mean,
Hmm.
to 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 say that that album would be out later this year is probably a good guess. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
so
maybe the excuse me, or maybe the first big name in 2026, so
could be, yeah. But I think it'll be this year, especially him being that much into it already. Because he
it's true.
started. If you think about it, he's 90 days in, so he started at the end of last year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's been what 22 was when the last one was out, or I think the last Megadeth album.
I believe it was, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's 22. I don't know why we can't remember some of these fucking release dates right off the top of our heads. Hang on. Yeah, September 2022. Yeah, so yeah, September 22 is when the Sick, the Dying, and the Dead came out. But let me backtrack a little bit here because we got a little off topic, but we're talking about the lineup for the Black Sabbath show. Back to the beginning, July 5th in Villa Park, Birmingham. Performances from Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, of course. And I did see today where Rudy Sarzo and Jakey Lee are going to be there too. So I saw
Yeah,
that this morning
awesome,
that they're
dude.
going to be there.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, you got Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, of course, Metallica, Slayer, Pantera, Gojira, who we'll talk about here in just a second, Alice in
Hmm.
Chains, Hailstorm, Lamb of God, Anthrax, and Mastodon. Those are the
Jesus
bands. Those are
Christ, dude.
those are the bands that are playing. You have additional performances from Billy Corgan, David Draymond, Duff McKagan, Fred Durst. I'm not exactly sure why on that one. Lizzie Hale, Jakey Lee, who I just talked about, Jonathan Davis, KK Downing, Mike Borden from Faith No More, Pop of Five Perpetua, who is going to be the brand new personification from Tobias Forge from Ghost. Take it or leave it as you will. Rudy Sarzo, who I also just mentioned. Sammy Hagar slash Sleep Token 2 from Sleep Token, Tom Morello, and Wolfgang Van Halen. All of those people are going to be at that show.
That's
Jesus
crazy.
Christ,
That's
man.
unreal, dude. I mean,
My God.
tickets for that thing's gonna be crazy, probably.
And yeah, probably. But I mean, that's literally going to be a once in a lifetime show because I mean, at this point, this is it. I mean, this is it. So, you know.
Yeah.
But speaking of Gojira, obviously we would be remiss if we didn't at least. We hate the Grammys. We can't. We don't like them. We don't like the Grammys as much as we don't like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But at the same time, we would be remiss if we didn't mention the fact that Gojira won the Heavy Metal Award uh, at the Grammys for Mea Culpa. So congratulations to them for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big deal. I'm kind of even and then if you don't know. Uh, Poppy, the lead singer for Spirit Box, was there.
Yes, she was. Yes, she was.
I seen that and I'm just like, oh my god. So it's so funny. Like I'll give Poppy this for creativity. It's like she made a new shirt based off of this. It
Yeah.
says "Hello, my name is Poppy" on the shirt. So you can't get confused anymore. So
That is the epitome of leaning into the skid.
yeah, it is. And you can like Poppy, don't like Poppy. I mean, that's pretty clever to me. I thought that was pretty funny. So,
Yeah. And the
and then and
funny
then and then and then the funny thing is Courtney kind of just played it off. She's just like,
right, yeah.
She's like, yeah, right. Whatever.
Yeah. 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 You just, I mean, you go with it and you turn a frown upside down, and
Well, I mean, this is why we don't like those shows is because they don't even know who the fuck they're talking
they
to.
don't
Like
they don't really.
they have if you're not in the hip hop community or country community or at least a Taylor Swift or I guess who's the guy playing like the Drake and or
Oh,
whoever's playing the Super Bowl or whatever.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah,
Kendrick
or
Lamar.
whoever those guys are. Like I hear the names. I don't know who they are. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup. But I
Yeah.
do know, as far as like by ear, I would be like, yeah, I've heard that name before. But if you're not those people, Grammys don't know who the fuck
Yeah,
you
they
are. They
don't they
care
don't seem
less.
to
It's
they
like,
don't seem to give a shit to do any due
yeah,
diligence.
yeah. I mean, Megadeth won an award, and by God, and for God Christ's sake, they played a fucking Metallica song when they walked up.
Hmm.
Like, get the
Yeah, they
fuck
did.
out of here. Like, you don't
Yeah.
even like. First off, you don't know the history because that was an insult, you know, to Dave Mustaine right out the
Hmm.
gate. Is
Yep.
for if you don't know the history, then I don't know. They definitely need some heavy metal representation at the fucking Grammys. I can tell you, man, because I would probably say they fuck something up with the heavy metal genre every year.
It does seem like it. It sure as hell does seem. I'll
Because
I'll give them credit as far as the award goes. I think they got it right this year, giving it to
oh
Gojira,
yeah, for sure.
especially after their performance at the Olympics. And don't get me wrong, I mean it's a good song in and of itself, but
Right.
performing it at the Olympics and everything, and the momentum that Gojira got off of that. Not just Gojira, but the metal
Community,
metal as a whole, the momentum that they got for that. I mean, you can't. I don't watch the Olympics
mm-hmm.
generally, but even I watched that. So I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
was, I mean, the bump that metal got from that is undeniable. I
Yeah.
mean, you just can't buy that kind of exposure. However you
Mm-hmm.
feel about the Olympics or not, there are billion. Well, I don't know about billions because there's only 8 billion people in the world, but millions of people watch the Olympics, and millions of people saw that. So you can't really buy that kind of exposure. So, but
Yeah, it
yeah,
was.
congratulations to them, and I'll give it to you, Grammys. I think you got it right this time.
Yeah, I, I think that too sets a tone for going forward, where they may reach out to more bands in that genre to do things like that.
Yeah.
So and a lot of people was like, there was I don't know if you've seen this. I think the only reason I know that guy's name that I was just talking about the Kendrick guy was because I seen a post talking about, well, how much is he getting paid? I'm like, well, if the motherfucker's getting paid, he's going to be the first one to ever get paid to
Yeah,
do a halftime
nobody
show.
ever gets. Yeah,
And
nobody
and,
ever
uh,
gets paid.
and then somebody posted on there says, yeah, they don't get. And I actually Googled it and showed them because they kept arguing. I said, dude, just Google it. Like, what the fuck? So I Googled it, snapshot, and I said, look, nobody gets paid, dude. That's why bands like Metallica and Guns N' Roses and shit like that will never do this show because they're not going to do shit for free. And
Yeah.
it's like, and they don't need the exposure. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
That's what people don't understand is that's how these artists get paid at the Super Bowl, by the exposure. That's
yeah,
how they get paid.
yeah. So I mean, if you
It's
went out and
it's a,
asked, if you
it's
went
an
out and asked, like not lose or somebody to come do it, they would probably do
they
it.
would. I
But
guarantee you they would.
you got bigger bands that are out there. They're not going to do. I think that the last even close to hard rock band that ever did it was Aerosmith. So,
As far as I can remember, it was Aerosmith.
and then I'm not,
And that was
you know,
20 some odd 20. God, I don't know
oh,
how long ago that was.
it's been a minute. It's back in shit late '90s, early 2000s
Yeah,
probably. So,
at least 25 years ago.
yeah, at least
At
25 years.
least.
So, but I think that to me, like the greatest performance ever been on there was Prince to me because whether you like Prince or you don't like Prince, I know we're in a metal show, but Prince is a
I like Prince.
awesome. I mean, he was a
I like
great
Prince.
songwriter, dude. I mean, if you go and look at his resume and just look at like the songs he wrote that wasn't even for himself
Hmm.
that were like Grammy award winning songs, it's like, dude, this guy was super talented. Like, you know, um, but I mean, like I said, everything comes from somewhere, and
Yeah.
I think people that would probably be like, oh yeah, Billy Idol or somebody like that, and then realize
Hmm.
oh well, then they kind of listen to somebody else from that era, like we were talking about earlier, like Faster Pussycat or LA Guns or something, and then they just keep
Right.
going and going and going, and then now next thing you know, they're here with us 25 years later listening to
Right.
stuff we listen. Just I mean that's just how it works. It's
Right.
like uh,
Yeah.
I
Well,
ain't
that's
gonna
what.
lie. My wife was never like a huge metal fan until we got together,
Yeah.
and then then she started liking some of the bands that she never heard of because of me,
Hmm.
because I was listening to stuff. She goes, "Oh, I never heard of them before," and I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I got
Well.
stuff like one of my favorite bands from that era that we were talking about from the '80s was Leatherwolf, and like they had a few singles out last year or year before, and I was hoping they was coming out with a new album because dude, that shit was badass. I'm like, oh shit, I can't wait for this.
Yeah.
This is like a whole new band sounds like. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, they had 20 years between albums and recordings. So, I mean, they've
Hmm.
had a lot of time to think about what they want to do with if they want to go forward with it. So and they did. They changed it up a pretty good bit. They got a little heavier, and of course that's heavier is always good in our opinion. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
but like I said, there's you know always always those bands that kind of like pop back up, and every once in a while you're like, oh wow, just for instance, we just seen where Masters of Reality, if you've seen that girl across the screen, where they their first album out in 16 years. I mean,
Hmm.
if it's been 16 years, you probably forgot about that band. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, and it's like, oh yeah, then you see it, and you're like, oh yeah, Masters of Reality, yeah. So
Right. Yeah.
so it's
Well, hell,
just
there was I can't remember the name of the band, but
it was like 30 years or something.
I remember talking about it in the headlines. I didn't read the story, but I remember talking about it in the headlines. There was another band that's just about to come out with their first album in like 20 some odd years. It's a thrash
Yeah,
metal band from Canada, I'm wanting to say. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, it was like with all of the short attention span theater that we've got going on now and everything, and just
yeah.
the immediate access we have to everything, when a band like that does come back out with something, you're like, holy shit, really? So it's like wow, they're still around, and like you say, I forgot about them and stuff like that. So I mean,
No,
but yeah,
it's the it's
it's pretty crazy.
yeah. Oh man, what else? There's something else I want to talk about. Shit. I mean, it wasn't about James Monkey Schaefer's cologne because nobody wants to smell like a monkey.
No, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
No, not really.
New for all primates. Oh yeah. It's like good for him, but just seeing that. Hopefully, they didn't say by James Schaefer Monkey or whatever, Monkey Schaefer on the damn bottle, because that may deter people from buying it.
Who knows? But I mean, hey, good for diversifying your portfolio. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean, well, a lot of the people, a lot of bands are doing that kind of thing. So,
yeah,
we're leaning into something other than, looks like, you see that every day, where we was talking about Korn had that deal with Adidas, and,
yep,
bands are joining, companies all the time doing stuff to promote, different things. So, oh, yeah, that was an interesting one. I thought that Marty Friedman wouldn't rule out joining another band. I'm just like, okay, well, why did you leave Megadeth then?
well,
Obviously, that was some issues with him and Dave, probably.
yeah,
So,
yeah, because he did say that when he left, he actually didn't really leave on good terms. So
yeah.
so
So,
of course there are a lot of people, and Kerry King has been quoted as saying, if I could have gotten along with Dave Mustaine,
oh,
I
yeah.
could have, I would have stayed in the band. So,
Mhm.
and the funny thing is Dave has made no bones about the fact that when he formed the band, and even now, that he's been a control freak the entire time.
Yeah. Very controlling. Well,
So
look at what. So you have to look at it in a perspective of what he went through with Metallica, though,
right,
because you're like, okay, I wrote all these songs, and now they're kicking me out of the fucking band. Like,
yep,
it's like, so all of my shit's going to be theirs now. So, of course, he got credit for it and royalties off of what he wrote, but it's still the
it stings. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's just like, okay, well, now he's got trust issues, So I mean, it's kind of like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be my way or no way. I mean, hell, look, he kicked fucking
uh-huh.
Dave Ellison out of the band, and he'd been with him since the beginning. So it's like, so
Hell, he fired him
and then,
twice.
yeah, and then last time was over something that wound up not even being true. So
Right. Yep.
so I think there was more to it than that. So I think he was just looking for a reason at that point. It sounded like so.
It's possible. I think it's possible, but
And then
you know,
luckily for Dave, he's never been short on guitars to want to join up. So
hmm
luckily for him, because I mean,
right.
don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a great guitarist in his own right, but I mean, he's getting up there too, and he
hmm
can't. I don't think he can play as fast as he wants to. Um, you
Right.
know,
Well,
anymore.
the
So
funny thing is, I mean, he's kind of he's kind of taken a step back as far
right,
as of course,
not as a lead guitarist anymore.
right. So I mean, he's got Timo Mantasari, who's kind of taken the lead on that at this point. And then it was Kiko before him and Chris
Yeah,
Broderick before him. So I mean, you know, but I wouldn't necessarily say that Dave is like softened at all. I'm sure he's just as
oh
opinionated.
no,
He's just as opinionated as he's always been. But I think I think he's 62 at this point. He's in his early
something like
60s
that.
at this
Yeah,
point. But I mean, I think he's to the point now where he's at least cognizant enough to know that he's like, look, I need to loosen the reins enough to where I can at least let somebody else take the lead, no pun intended, as far as the
yeah,
guitar playing goes. That way, I can still progress as a band and keep this whole thing together. Because hell, he's the only original member at this point. I mean, James
right,
Lomenzo is back in the band, but I mean, he's come and gone and stuff like that. So I
right.
mean, he's had numerous stints with the band. David Ellison is gone. A couple of of course, Gar Samuelson, he passed away. Chris Poland, I mean, all of these guys have come and gone. So I mean, it is so he's the only original member. So I mean, at some point you got to be like, all right, I need to.
Right.
You would like to think at some point Dave would put together a lineup, and even because I mean Dirk Verburen, he's been the drummer for a while. I'd have to look up and see when he joined, but I mean he's been in the band for a while. James Lomenzo is just now back. Timo Mantasari has been in the band probably maybe a year and a half. I can't remember when Kiko left, but I mean, Timo's only been in the band for like maybe 12 or 18 months. You would think at some point that Dave would be like, I would like to finalize a lineup and maybe have this one be the one that I ride off into the sunset. Who knows? But
Looks like Dirk Van Buren's been there since 2016. So
yeah, so he's going on a decade with the band.
yeah. Then Timu joined in 23. So
Yeah, so I mean, a couple years.
yeah, I know it was in the middle of the tour off the last album whenever all that
Yeah,
happened. So and like I said, Kiko recommended Timu. So I mean,
right.
he was kind of like, hey, I want out. This is my replacement. Here you go. He's like, hey, it'd look better on me if I should give him somebody. Well, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think he wanted to like.
leave him high and dry.
Well, kind of be the guy that destroyed a tour. It's like I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
But so yeah, I was trying to look at
Yeah.
the current members. I mean, like I said, James Lomenzo's kind of the oldest one outside of Dave.
hmm
He was there in '06 to 2010, and then came back in 22. So um,
Yeah. But yeah, so you'd like to think at some point Dave would be like to be like, all right, this is my lineup, and you know, so
yeah.
maybe he will, maybe he will decide one day not to be such a hard ass, but who knows?
I, I just look at it. I look at it like Encyclopedia of my time. I'm looking at past members, and I have to scroll down.
Oh, I know, yeah, yeah, you do, because
Oh
there's been a
Jesus,
lot.
man! Oh man, it's crap. But like I said, he's kind of been blessed with that. Kind of like with Ozzy. Ozzy was blessed with having having like so many great guitarists with Zach and Jakey Lee and Randy Rhodes, and it's
hmm
just like, man, you can't you can't get much better than that as far
Well,
as
here's
guitarists in the
well,
world.
here's
So I
the,
mean,
but here's
to
my
be
thing.
to be able to push forward and have that much amazing talent
Yeah,
keep coming and dropping in your laps is
but
unreal.
here's my thing about that though. Since you brought that up, we've talked about it on the show a couple times before. But I give up a pinky toe to go to Ozzy's last show. The lineup is insane. You know what, Cotton? I'd probably be right there in the same boat with you.
Yeah.
Which, and by the way, thank you for watching the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah. A lot
But
of
yeah,
YouTube love today. We appreciate it. So,
yeah, which is awesome.
yeah.
But I would, man, I'd be willing to take out a second mortgage on the house to go. I don't know. There's a lot I would be willing to do to go to that show. But since you brought it up, I know that I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was that said that the only reason why Ozzy had the career he had was because of the musicians that he had. Um, first of
Yeah.
all, first of all, any band that's ever made it is because the sum of the parts. That's
Right.
first and foremost.
Yeah. Nobody did
Second
it
of
on their
all,
own. I mean,
right. Second of all, could it be that these guitar players wanted to play for Ozzy when he got fired? Let's be honest. When
mhm.
Black Sabbath fired him, could it be that Ozzy got the guitar players he got because of who Ozzy was and the career that he had
Yeah.
because of Black Sabbath, which by the
Oh
way
yeah.
was also a sum of its parts kind of situation.
Right.
I think I think that Tony Iommi wouldn't be as popular as he is if it wasn't for Ozzy and Black Sabbath, not the other way
Right.
around. That's my
Oh,
opinion.
for sure. Yeah.
So the fact that Black Sabbath fired Ozzy, to me, and by the way, I still think it's a chicken shit move that Tony Iommi wanted to fire him but didn't do it himself.
Yeah.
That's a hill I will die on. I think it was a chicken shit move by Tony Iommi. If you wanted to fire him, you should have fired him, not have Bill Ward do it. Anyway, when Black Sabbath fired Ozzy, I think that Ozzy was able to secure the talented guitarist he got because of Black Sabbath
Mhm.
and how good he was in Black Sabbath. I don't think Ozzy Osbourne lucked into the guitar players that he got. I think the guitar players that Ozzy Osbourne got was because Ozzy was Ozzy and Ozzy made
Mhm.
Black Sabbath. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I mean, I wasn't saying it like that. I was just saying that
I know, no, no, I know you weren't, but
yeah,
that guy,
but you got bands like I mean, like I said with Ozzy, you had guitarists come in. I didn't know who Jakey Lee was until I seen him
Mhm.
with Ozzy. You know what I mean? Amazing guitar player, and other people may have knew who he was, and then but then I also remember Jakey Lee started the band Badlands, which was a
Mhm.
great band, and of course it was short lived, but
Yeah.
mainly because of what we were talking about earlier with the late '80s stuff, because I think they were like 88, 89 when they tried to
Mhm.
form, so I think they got a late start too. But I'm just saying, like, and then Zach came along, and we didn't know how great Zach was until he played with Ozzy. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like that's what I'm saying. Like Ozzy seen something in all these guys that we now know was probably
Who have
the
become who
right
have
move.
become yeah who have become legendary.
Yeah, legend.
But that's the whole thing. Is I mean, a band, a band that has the career. Of course, Ozzy basically was a solo artist. So Ozzy wouldn't have had the career he had it not been the musicians around him. But the musicians around him probably wouldn't have had the career they had Ozzy not brought them into his band.
Right.
I mean, there's no one element that makes a band and carries a band to a career like that. Everyone wants to shit on Lars and Metallica. It seems to be the fashionable thing to do, but Metallica wouldn't have been Metallica had it not been for Lars. And
Hmm.
then they wouldn't have gotten as popular as they did in the beginning if it wouldn't have been for the fact that they brought in Dave Mustaine.
Hmm.
Now, Dave could have not gotten fired had he not been an asshole when he was drunk. But
Well,
it's
what
it's
was
been
it? Wait
it's
a minute
been it's
now.
been well it's been well it, of course it's been well documented that when of course they were all drunks back then. It's been
Yeah.
well documented. But they didn't get along when they were drinking. It just so happened that Dave was a belligerent drunk and the rest of the guys were happy drunks, and it just didn't work.
Well,
So, but
no,
that,
the
that
rest of the guys
that's
were were pranksters when they got drunk, and Dave didn't play that shit. So
so yeah,
that's what happened.
it was a combustible element when alcohol
It
was
was,
introduced,
yeah,
but at the same time, no band has made it because of just one guy holding it all together.
right.
Now, we're talking about Megadeth and Dave Mustaine being the only original member.
Hmm.
The reason why Megadeth is able to still be a band, even though Dave Mustaine is the only original member, is because of how talented Dave Mustaine is. When
Mhm.
Dave Mustaine reaches out to a particular guitar player, it's like, hey, would you like, hell, they were going to recruit Dimebag. Dimebag was going to
Mhm.
come along, but they already had a drummer.
Yeah.
They didn't need Vinnie Paul.
Right.
Hell, I just saw something earlier this week where Alex Skolnick was going to join Megadeth as a fill-in 2016.
Oh wow, that would have been crazy.
So I mean, Kerry King was in Metallica for like a hot minute.
Hmm.
So I mean, talent finds talent. Talent will always find talent.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how long that talent is together. If the talent comes together and the talent can make good content, whether it's movies, TV shows, music, sports, sports teams, talent finds talent. And when it gels and it makes something good, talent will stick together. And if something goes wrong, more talent will come in. So this whole bullshit thing is like, oh, Ozzy wouldn't have had the career he had if it wasn't for the guitar players. Who knows if we would have even heard of Zach
Well,
Wild?
yeah,
That's the thing is,
yeah,
I
oh,
mean,
yeah. That's
they
exactly what I was saying. Is we probably
yeah,
wouldn't have knew who they were without them joining. I mean, we probably would have at some point, but I'm just saying,
maybe,
being on
maybe.
somebody as popular as Ozzy made them, a lot bigger, faster. I think so.
Yeah, so the whole thing was like Ozzy was only famous because of the guitar players he had. I think that's a bullshit argument.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I agree with
I
that.
wasn't so yeah, no, you had brought it up, but I knew it wasn't you who was saying that.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
It just made me think of that story where, and I'll look that up to see who it was that said that. But I strongly disagree with that because it just doesn't it just doesn't work that way. It's, whether it's Spirit Adrift with three people or Slipknot with nine, everything's got to there's got to be some sort of chemistry and there's got to be some sort of gelling of the
hmm
personalities and all that shit to make the product. There has to be.
so this brings me to another thing. Since we're talking about this, is like we're talking. This even comes together with like bands that we think are kind of solo. Like we talked the Reality Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's done most of this stuff on computer. Well, he still needed somebody to sing it, so
Yeah.
he's still got an extra person. It's not always a one man band. So, there has to be a collective there somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just two people or four people or five people, whatever it is. You know, they together make the album, make the band. And with what we say, Reality Machines had two different singers on two different albums, so
Well,
that's
what Ari has done with the Reality Machine project is that was kind of that's kind of the whole. It's not that the two singers is on purpose, and we know
yeah,
that.
yeah, I know
Yeah, and
that.
we know that. But because that was his whole thing, it's like I'm putting this album together, and I have a certain singer in mind, and
In
then
mind, yeah. So,
yeah, and then like with this last one, it was the same thing.
hmm
Kind of a little bit of a different theme. It's kind of the continuation of the first album. But
hmm
he's like, all right, now I have this style of singer in mind. But the funny thing is so he goes out, he has that in mind when he's already putting the project together. But at the same time, he has an idea. But if he reaches out and that particular style of singer, if he can't find it, if no one accepts his invitation, then he doesn't have a project. The
hmm
project comes together because Ari has an idea, but Ari can't completely implement his idea unless the other part of the project comes together, which is the singer
right.
that he has in his mind as he's putting the music together. And even then, when it's time to go play the music, he's only got two hands and 2 feet like the rest of us. He'll
Right.
still, if he wants to perform live, he still has to find people who can play the music.
Exactly.
And with the music that he puts out, he's going to have to find talented people to play it,
hmm
which means that if and when he performs live, it's going to be the sum of the talent that he finds that allows him to translate what he wrote to the stage.
hmm
So it's not just Ari Cotepelto playing this music. For one, like you said, he doesn't sing, so he has to find a singer, and he only is able to play one instrument at a time. So whatever
hmm
instrument he plays, someone's going to have to play the other instruments.
Right.
So he is going to have to go find talent. So talent will find talent. That's the
Right.
whole thing. A one man band is never truly a one man band when it comes to the live performance, because
Mhm.
one guy can go in and do all of the vocals. Then it's like, all right,
Yeah.
now I'm going to do all the guitars. Now I'm going to do all the bass. Now I'm going to do all the drums. You can layer all that shit together and form a song that you can send and post on Spotify. That's all well and good. What happens when it's time to play it on stage? Okay, I have to go
Right.
find talented people to help me play this.
You know. Yeah, it's kind of like I was gonna say, like the first, first project I ever remember like that was Nine Inch Nails, where you
Yeah.
got the first record and it said Nine Inch Nails is Trent Reznor, and of course
Mm-hmm.
once he got to where he had to tour off of that, then he had to add people. But now everything you see is of course Trent Reznor and Atticus. They're
Right.
they're kind of hand in hand now. So
Right.
especially after all the Grammys and I guess.
Well, I think they've won. I think they've won some like Golden Globes and Emmys
Golden Globes,
for
yeah,
doing
Emmys,
like
yeah.
they've done music and or they've done movie and TV scores, haven't they?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean,
For years, yeah.
yeah. So they've won awards for that stuff too. So
Yeah, I mean, you can go to their website and see. I mean, it's
oh
full of
yeah,
the awards and stuff they've won. So I mean, good for him. It's like and I think that's good too because if you're that talented to be able to do that, then cool. You're not putting all your I guess the old saying is putting all your eggs in one basket,
hmm
kind of thing. So you go, okay, I ain't making an album, and somebody might reach out and say, hey, you want to do this movie score? And well, hell yeah. Well, now,
right, yeah,
people are probably, asking them to do movie scores more than they are to play playing Nine Inch Nails music at this point. So,
it's true. But that's the name that Trent and Atticus have made, and they've made that name for themselves.
right, right.
So it's good.
Yeah. So it's just like you said, it's a collective. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
uh, I'm not, of course, some bands don't get that, but
Right, they don't.
uh,
And that's the thing is even there's been a lot of bands that I guarantee you have never made it because
mhm.
like there was probably I guarantee you there's been bands out there that had a really good guitar player, the drummer was shit, the vocalist was shit, and they just never got off the ground. There's been
Mhm.
bands where the vocalist has been awesome but the music was garbage. There's been bands that had a great drummer, the rest of the so I mean I guarantee you
Well,
pick a position in a band, and I guarantee you there have been probably countless bands who have had
mhm.
a good this, crappy that, and vice versa all the way around. It's
I
just
tell
that's
you,
just how it is.
yeah, it's something else. It's probably like I know we've listened to some stuff in the past where we've kind of brought that up on the show and been like, man, if he'd have been a guitarist in any other band, you know what I mean? It's kind of like the that's just kind of like not saying the album was bad. That's just kind of what stuck out
Hmm.
the most
Yeah,
was, man, this guitarist is so good. If he'd been in any other band,
yeah.
you know, or maybe it was kind of like there was like a guitarist in a death metal band. I know that was one of the things I think we heard at one point. It was like a death metal band. I said, dude, that's not a death metal guitarist. That's not,
Hmm.
by no means.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
kind
I
of I think
mean,
he's in the wrong place, but
yeah.
you know,
I mean, I've gone to shows where I've been watching bands and I'd be like that. Like, I mean, where I've seen like that guitar player could get poached or that drummer could get poached. I mean,
right. Hmm.
he's too good for this, that, and the other thing. So I mean, I've gone to shows where it's like, yeah, that guy. This if the right person sees this
Hmm.
person play, this dude's going places
I
because
think
yeah, sometimes you can tell where there's like there's like a fish out of water. You know,
yeah,
it's like this guy needs help. This guy should be going places.
right. And I know, like when I went and seen, oh God, who did he open for? Marty Friedman. He opened for Queensryche.
Oh, you're talking about when they were at Brooklyn Bowl?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
what.
It was Queensryche.
Yeah. So anyway, it's like never in my wildest dreams would I think I would be sitting there just enjoying an instrumental show. But I mean, that was an hour and probably 10 minutes of just straight instrumental stuff because that's all
Hmm.
Marty does. There's no
Yeah.
singer. But I think the thing with that is like his drummer is so good with the hype. He's the hype man. The drummer
Hmm.
was the hype man, which I've never
Yeah.
seen before. That was kind of crazy. But I think that's kind of like what got me more into it was because he kept hyping up the next track or whatever. in a like I said, it's just amazing to sit and watch, instrumentally them do what they were doing because I think you get so caught up in it you don't even realize there's not lyrics there.
Hmm.
You're just so caught up in watching and just like, man, this is crazy. Just how great they were. And like you know, honestly not into a lot of. I ain't gonna say I'm not into instrumentals. I just think there's a place and a time and albums for
Yeah,
that kind of thing. And
yeah.
I'll say this: I'm not. I'm never have been a guy that would go out and buy an album that's full instrumental.
No, I don't.
Um,
I don't think I would either.
because
I like a
I
good
mean,
instrumental too, but
I like a good instrumental, but I like it to
yeah,
be embedded into other things.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I just like I said, you got to have a good hype man and stuff like that. Which I think a lot of reason why I think Static X probably decided to use Etzel Dope, as their guy because of his personality and he's like, man, he's watching that show was just blew my mind. So,
Hmm.
just because you knew that was him, you know what I mean. But it's
Hmm.
still kind of like you still want to imagine that Wayne Static's up there because you just want to imagine that. But
Right.
but
Well, that
but
was
it's
well. The funny thing is that was Edsel's whole thing is like when
yeah.
he agreed to step in, he was like because I still to this just sitting here right now, I still don't think that they've even said his name. Because
Mm-mm.
he still goes
They
by
keep calling
zero
like zero,
because he
yeah.
still goes by zero. But that was his whole thing. Edsel was like, look, I will do this, but I am not going to put my name on it because it's not about me. It's about
Right.
honoring Wayne, and I think it's a really good way
I
that
did,
they've
yeah.
done that. It's a
It
really good way
is,
that they have done that
but
because
like,
I like the mask that he wears, and
yeah.
they've they've been able to kind of and the funny thing is he's actually I think Edsel changed it, so he's got a new one now.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
but
since
it's
they sent out they came out with volume 2 of Project Regeneration, so he's
right.
got a different mask to go along with it. But
But he's like he don't want to have his name attached to it because that's his alter ego. That's not him. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So it's
and
not
they're trying to
because
honor Wayne's
because if you
legacy.
said
Yeah,
yeah because if you just said, oh well, SO Dope's, give it up for SO Dope fronting Static X. I mean, people would have been like, yeah, okay, you know. But just saying, hey, give it up for Zero, and then people kind of like, okay, that's it's a little bit, I feel like it would just get a different reaction as far as even though we know who it is, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
we know. Yeah,
But I think just out of respect for the band, and we see that, and we
hmm,
we respond to that better. I think
yeah,
than just coming out and saying, "Oh, this is our new lead singer." So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
that's exactly why I like the way they've gone about it.
Well, I mean, if you look at certain bands like Drowning Pools went through that for ever since Dave Williams died, just trying to find the right guy to front the band. And it's
Hmm.
just, it's worked out on some albums and some albums not so much. So, I mean, and them to have, Ryan back in the band from Soil is kind of, I think it works because Soil and Drowning Pool can be a little similar, I think. So, but it's kind of like I don't know. They experimented with different singers with different sounds and talents, and sometimes it worked out, and sometimes it didn't. So, and I think that's the thing you got to look at. It's like, okay, when I'm changing, we got to make sure we're changing for the better. I mean, you don't always know that either. I mean, you kind of, fans are gonna, anytime you do change, fans are gonna kind of be shitting on you in the beginning anyway. So,
Right, because every fan base clamors for change, and then they get pissed when you change.
yeah,
So you
we
can't
talk
fucking
about
win for
that.
losing.
Yeah, we talk about that with the Disturbed album was
Yep.
probably the ones that always comes to mind with that. It's like,
Yep.
y'all sound the same, and then he changed it up, calls it evolution, let you know it's changing, and then oh
Right.
that don't sound like Disturbed. Well,
Yeah.
because you told him you didn't want it to sound like that
Uh
anymore.
huh.
Like get the fuck out of here.
Can't win for losing, man.
Yeah, yeah, and luckily for Draymond, he's a pretty laid back guy, so
Yeah.
he's seen all the parodies and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that. He's always kind of laughed at those. He's like, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. He said,
Yeah.
So
That greatest hit of Disturbed. He thought that was fucking
the greatest
hilarious.
hit, yeah.
He thought that was absolutely hilarious.
I think his favorite part was how will the guy with so much, do so little. uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
oh man,
if you guys haven't seen that, go over to YouTube and just search for the greatest hit of Disturbed.
yeah. Or
It's
disturbed parody. I think it comes
or
up that way
yeah, that's
too.
it. That's true too. But it's super duper funny. Oh my god, it's funny.
Yeah,
Even if you're not a fan of Disturbed, which I am, I know you are too.
yeah.
I and
Oh
so,
yeah.
but
And he
even
had those.
be
He had those like big
this
ass like things. That
massive thing.
even though like Draymond's is not that big, but it
No,
was still funny.
but being fans of Disturbed like we are, we even can acknowledge that at some point it's like, all right, you're gonna
Yeah,
have to
that's like,
do
like
something different.
yeah.
And
I'm like I'm
when that came out, it was like, oh my god, that is so fucking accurate.
yeah
But it
yeah
was great.
yeah. We were like that's kind of fucked up, but it's really funny. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So. All right. Anyway, well, I'll share this. That is this week's playlist, so you don't go home empty-handed. I guess today. So, that's this week's new release playlist. I may get with Chris after the show. We may put together a playlist for you guys to have something for you guys next week in case we don't do the interview again. So,
Mm, yeah.
so we'll put together something on the side, and we'll also get together and figure out album reviews for
Oh
next week
yeah,
too.
yeah. So I
Um,
mean, there's plenty.
Yeah.
See, looking
Well,
forward to.
there was big shit this week. Days of Jupiter, Dream Theater, Ginger.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of big stuff.
And the funny thing is like all that remains. His new album came out last week. I still haven't had time to listen to that
Yeah,
yet because I was doing all the research for the show this week. So
right.
I'm falling behind quick.
Yeah, don't take long.
It doesn't take
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
It
Then of
does not
course,
take long.
with that playlist, you got new stuff from Arch Enemy, and Spirit Box, and
Hmm.
like I said, Dirk Snyder and Majestica. I hadn't heard that name in a while, so it's kind of cool to see them back out doing stuff. And
Hmm.
a lot of All That Remains had a new, even though they had the album out, they released a new single.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of
Yep.
stuff out there, man. Like I said, it's starting to get starting. The heavy hitters are starting to try to come out.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah. Yeah.
peeking out. So and I
March
know,
March is going to be nuts.
yeah, and then I think the Kill Switches comes out the same week as the Brainstorm album, doesn't it?
Let me check real quick.
I want to say I want to say it's the 28th or whatever it is. Yeah, I could be right.
Um,
Maybe it's the week before. Maybe it's the 21st. I can't remember.
Hang on.
But anyway, this is say Kill Switch is coming out this month too. So
Kill Switch Engage comes out on the 21st.
yeah, okay,
Then Brainstorm comes out on the 28th. Then we've also got, and then looking at not looking too far ahead, but in March we've got new Warbringer. We've got our friends
oh my god,
in
I can't wait for
Hidden
that shit.
Intent. Hidden Intent's new album comes out in March. So I mean, March it's it's going to start to pick up really really fast.
I think we get we got Struck a few times at the Rocky Pie, but I think if we had Warbringer on this show, I would probably just lose it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I would say it's definitely worth an email. The worst that can happen is
I,
they don't even respond. That's the
yeah,
worst thing that can happen.
which we've been ghosted a bunch of times. We don't
Yeah, we've
whatever.
been ghosted before. So I mean, it happens.
It is what it is. So
We are far from batting 1,000. So I mean,
right,
it's one of those things where you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
exactly, yeah. Well, I guess I've kind of ran out of stuff to talk about. I
yeah,
don't know if you.
I think I think it's one of those things where I think we've done pretty well getting 90 minutes out of a show we weren't even prepared to do. So,
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean that's pretty true. So
but I mean, but on the bright side, like I say, we got to talk about some of the things that happened this week. With any luck, Hank Hill and Cotton Ministries, thank you for coming by and checking out the show. Hopefully, we got a couple of new subscribers out of it. That would be nice.
and
Hopefully,
hopefully we'll actually have an interview for you next time you're here. Sorry
yeah,
that
that would be ideal. But
so, like I said,
um,
that's I don't think that's ever happened before where we're just
no, it hasn't.
I think the closest we've had was the dude. He had to get out of bed and come up here because he got the dates wrong. But
Yeah, we did almost
yeah,
miss there, but
yeah. And he did swear that he had pants on, but we still don't know to this
I don't
day.
know.
So
I don't know. Knowing Brian at this point, I don't know if I believe that. So.
I don't think yeah me either. So oh
And the
man,
funny thing is, I don't think Brian's ever going to tell us for sure.
yeah.
I don't think he's going to tell us.
But yeah, hopefully, like I said, you guys hang with us because we're definitely got a lot of good interviews in the future coming up. I know for a fact we've already like talked to a couple of guys that are like, yeah, we're once we get closer, we'll reach out and we'll
Yep.
get something set up. So hopefully with Chris with Hidden Intent, we'll get something set up with those guys into February 1st of March, where you can kind of talk about the new album and push that a little bit for before its release date. And
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
that's I think that works better for some reasons. Like if we can get it before the release date, so we can kind of show everybody like
Yeah.
the artwork and that kind of thing, and be like, hey, this is what you're looking for. Go out and
Yeah.
download it or buy it or
Build up the
whatever.
excitement. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I mean, I think that it's a little bit. It's kind of like, hey, this just came out 2 weeks ago, and if you missed it, I mean, that's good too. Because a lot of, like I said,
Mhm.
what we do here is a lot of bands that a lot of people don't normally talk about, and
Yep.
as far as what we try to push here. I mean, we're going to talk about the other stuff, but we're mainly trying to push bands that should be at the bottom of our ticker.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So
There's always room down there. There absolutely
there's
is.
always room. Yeah, there's always room. So, but yeah, so hopefully we will have something worked out with those guys within the next week or two. Because like I said, I'd love I told Curtis I'd love to have it done before the album release because we already have everything. We already have it. So I mean, we already have
Hmm.
the artwork and everything saved. So
Yep.
we can always share that and get some insight on the albums and the history of the band and all that good stuff. Because like I said, we know the history of most bands, but you got a band that's been out like you said 36 years, and we barely heard of them the last five. So it's
Hmm.
kind of like, man, we missed out. So
Yeah. Oh, we definitely have done some making up for lost time with this band, without a
well,
doubt.
yeah, we just had to listen to 14 albums this week. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think we I think we've done all right this week.
Yeah.
So
We have done more due diligence than the Grammys.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah. So.
Uh,
I
oh
don't know
yeah.
if you want to talk about any the full list for next week, or you just
I mean, I can go over the list for next week. Absolutely, that's totally fine. All right, looking forward to next week, Friday, February 14th. Oh, Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, man.
Yep. All right, leading off over at heavymusichq.com, as always, leading off with Amber Asylum with Ruby Red, Apocalypse Orchestra with A Plague Upon Thee, Asparn with Oblations and Atrocity,
Thank you.
Big Canyon with a self-titled album, Bleeding Through with Nine. There's another big name.
Bleeding through,
Uh,
yeah.
Bloke with Living Without Expectations, Blood Cult with We're Gonna Take Your Soul, Cantu Ignis with The Fathomless Dominion, Carcole with Twilight of the Morals, Carmeria with Trinity Volume 1, that's an EP, Clouds with Desperins, Calignon with Bicicleta, Colossal Street Jam with No Way to Live, Crazy Licks. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a blast from the past too. Crazy Licks, Thrill of the Bite, Dawn of Solace with Affliction Vortex, Dead American with Attention Deficit, Decline of the Eye with Wilhelm, Delirant with Thought Eater, Diamond Dogs and Chris Spedding with Macon Georgia Giants, Ditch with the Traveler, Dynasty with Game of Faces. There's another band that's been around for a long time, Dynasty.
Yeah.
Desangulum with Execratus, Ephemera with For Those Afraid to Die, that's an EP. Fell Omen with Invaded by a Dark Spirit, Ginger Evil with The Way It Burns, Greybeards with Out of the Red, that's an EP. Hands Like Houses with Atmospherics, Hangman's Chair with Sediction, In Mourning with The Weight of Oceans, that's a re-release for them. Isrod with Ulika, Turnya e Kamenya, that's an EP. If I even said it right, not sure. Kosuke Hashida with Outrage, Lacuna Coil, there's another one with Sleepless
Oh yeah.
Empire. Llama Keeper with Always Possible, Lead Feather with Roll the Dice, that's an EP. Lone Shark with No Sins to Confess, Love is Noise with To Live in a Different Way, Mantar with Post Apocalyptic Depression, Mantric Momentum with Alienized, Mastord with Lemon Lintu, Midland Railway with a self-titled album, Moon Fever with Forever Sleep, Mouth with Global Warning, Necrodancer with Acts of Chaos Require Halberds and Late Night Sandwiches, And believe it or not, that is an EP. Nova Rupta with Astral Sands, Obscure Violence Refuting the Flesh, Pattern Seeking Animals with Friend of All Creatures, Pothamus with Aber, Prehistoria with Cryptic Halo, Pyrrhic Salvation When Society Crumbles, that's an EP, Ranzer with Lied Coulter, Raven with Can't Take Away the Fire, that's an EP, Ray of Light with Salute. I don't even want to see this album cover. Rectal Smegma with To Serve and Protect, Rescue Cat with Flesh and Weapon, Ryogon with Kept, Savage Lands with Army of Trees, Scorpion Child with I Saw the End as It Passed Right Through Me, Serpents of Pekangba with Air and Fire, Sounds of New Soma with the story of Sam Bucket, Spiders with Sharp Objects, Storm with Walking Dead, Sublimed with Metamorphosis, that's an EP, Throne with Osarium, Venter with Ubique Diaboli Voluntas, Venues Blue with Infame Nectar, Warlong with The Human Torch, and Windwalker with Hyperviolence Expansion Pack. So that is next Friday's new release list.
Cool. Like I said, if you follow us on our Facebook page, we will post up our album reviews there. Since we were planning on having a show this week, or we would have probably already listened to something and had something ready for you. But
right.
Seeing as we were spending, all the week listening to 14 albums of Brainstorm, so
yep.
So that's that. So we'll definitely have that up there for you, and then we'll put together a playlist too, just so we have something for next week.
Yeah.
And just in case,
and we will do our best
to reschedule that soon,
right? And we'll
in
do.
In the meantime, you can check out our 24/7 radio station, which is playing right now. As far as I know, I haven't been on it today, but but it should be.
It should be.
Yeah, everything's paid up for as far as I know. So you can stream that at stream.trulyradio247.com/8008/stream. And like I said, that's 24/7, and there's always stuff being added to that. So never a lack of songs on that for sure. Mm-hmm. So thousands and thousands of stuff there. So
yeah.
And then Chris can run down where you can find us on our socials.
Absolutely. You can email us at metalheadsuniteusa@gmail.com if you want to drop us a line, or if you want to drop us a request for the 24/7 live radio station. Or you can follow us on all of our social media platforms: Facebook, our Facebook group and Facebook page, our YouTube channel, X, TikTok, Instagram, Rumble, and Spotify, and Twitch too.
Oh man.
Yeah. So. And we will do our best as during the week to update everybody on whether or not this interview is going to be pushed to this Saturday, right. Whether or not we're going to be back on our regularly scheduled time. So we'll do the best we can to keep you guys up to date, whether it's going to be Friday or Saturday. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have it rescheduled for one of the next 2 weeks. That's kind of what I'm hoping, because like I said, we want to get it out before the 28th, but. So
and we can get the rest of our interviews scheduled too.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of what because I was actually going to reach out today after the interview to go forward. Now I'm kind of like, okay, I don't know what I want to do.
Gotta juggle some things.
Yeah. Well, I never, of course, we've been in talks with one of the other bands, and they haven't really set a set date yet. So I don't know if they are still. Trying to figure that out or what, so I might touch base back with them too and see what it looks like. So
yeah,
but yeah, so interviews are starting to the talks anyway are pretty much out there. Probably I think there was still another band I wanted to reach out to, but I was kind of waiting to see what was going to happen here.
Right.
So I didn't want to like double book myself.
So
that
would be double booking would be worse than having what happened today.
That would be worse. I mean, are we just like, hey, this band meet this band?
See, we could do that too. Oh yeah, that would be neat.
Meet the band segments.
That would be cool, actually. Now that you mention it, interesting.
Don't give me ideas, man.
I know, right?
I got enough running around up here already. So,
well, I mean, hey, it's shit. That's something we could put a pin in. You never know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we get to where we're doing them 52 weeks out of the year, for sure.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
anyway, appreciate you guys for dropping in. Hank and Cotton and Amy, of
Yep.
course, one of our regulars there. So
Yep.
appreciate you guys stopping in. Of course, Amy's on Facebook, and Cotton and Hank was over on YouTube. Appreciate the love over from YouTube today.
Absolutely.
It's weird. It's weird how we do that. Like one day, like I think one of the shows a couple weeks ago was like 6 people were on Twitter
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
X or whatever they call it now.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it's just weird how it just rotates back and through
Hmm.
each
It
show.
does seem
So
to do that.
well, it's cool though. I mean,
Oh, it's totally fine.
as long as we're getting more eyes on the prize, that's what I mean.
That's
That's the
right.
big things. All right, guys. Hopefully, we will see you back here next week. We'll let you know if it's Friday or Saturday. Just kind of keep an eye out on our socials there. Normally, it's a Friday at for those of you that are joining us this morning. Normally, it's a Friday night at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time for our regular show. But when we book a band from overseas, we usually try to do Saturday morning so they don't have to get up at like 5 in the morning. So
Yeah.
it kind of gives them the afternoon to kind of get with it.
Right.
So, but yeah, so we'll let you know because if we have to reschedule this, of course it'll be next Saturday. If not, then we'll
Hmm.
be here next Friday night. But I'll definitely have something set up the studio by Wednesday. So
Yep.
kind of get an idea. If I hadn't heard nothing by Wednesday, I was going to set it up for Friday night. So because I know you do the
Oh, the
metalhead
minute,
minute
the
that day
minute.
too.
Yeah.
So it kind of
Yep.
gives you a Kyle. And I guess we probably need to be prepared to have a regular show. I guess at this point, just to be safe. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, you and I will touch base on a theme of the week, and then we'll start putting some news stories together. So
yeah.
we'll be prepared.
All right, guys. Thanks for stopping in and joining us today. Hopefully, like I say, we'll see you back here next Friday or Saturday, whichever. So we'll see how that works out. So until then, keep those horns held high. Jump in that pit anytime you can.
Have a great week.